In this video, we're going to spend a few minutes investigating quick ways to turn a list of points into an outline list with different indentations. So I've already typed some points here to save us time in the video, so I'll highlight those. And we've got options for a bulleted list that might be useful to you, or a numbered list, but I'm going to choose this button for multi-level list. And I'm going to choose having Roman numerals on the outside level. That's what I think of as an outline. But it clearly isn't an outline yet, since all of these points aren't my major points. So now we've got two different ways then that we can shift the points inside to the right. Oops, and it says left here. Let me change that to say right. So to move each of these subpoints, one of the ways to do that is to enter a tab key there. So I get my cursor and I hit tab, and I'll do the same thing with the next point, hit tab, and you can see that it moves it over one level in your outline. Another option is to use the increase indent button. And the increase indent button is right here. It's got an arrow to show that it is going to move to the right. This next point I'll leave as a major point. There's many different ways to choose your forms for outlines. Let me select several points here and show you that by highlighting all of these lines and hitting the increase indent button, they all go over one level. And now I might have some subpoints here. So let's see, let's move these 2 points as another level. And we might choose these 2 points and move them over another level as well. And very quickly here, this is going to look like a nice outline form for us. So the advantages of outlining this way in Microsoft Word is that we might change our mind later. So I'm going to highlight several points here and then choose some subpoints. And I could choose some subpoints again, perhaps, for one of these. And remember, our other option is to just put our cursor there and hit the tab key to move points in. And there's our outline form. And these two I might just move in one more level and say that we're done. You've got the idea. Now, what do I mean about being able to change the format? Well, once I have this set up as an outline form, now I could choose different. So let's say that I chose this numbering system. This is often used with legal formats. So you can see 0.1, 1.1. You can look at the subpoint under 3.1 becomes 3.1.1. So there's kind of a legal format. I'm going to use Control Z to undo. If I go to bulleted list, this often serves the purpose, and we've got all choices of different types of bullets. There's a nice bullet choice, and notice what it did. It kept our levels of indentation, but it gave us different bullets for each of those. And you might say, well, I would like a different type of bullet for this indent. So under the bullet option here, we can define a new bullet, or we can just choose one of these choices. So you can even enter your own pictures as your choices of bullets. All right, let's see. The one other thing I guess that I didn't do here is let's change this to a numbered list and see how that's a little bit different. And it's not much different at all, except the indentations are different than when it was an outline form. All right, and then I've got one more point to make here before I quit with this video, and that is on my next page here. Let me scroll. This is one of my particular pet peeves, is if you see a list of points but they do not have a hanging indent. So I think this is very hard to see where number 1 ends and number 2 begins. And Microsoft Word also doesn't like you to do that sloppy kind of word processing. So watch what happens here. This is the same text. In Microsoft Word, auto formatting is turned on unless you turn it off. So if I type the number 1 here and hit a space or a tab, watch what happens to get a hanging indent. And that hanging indent goes all the way until we get to a return. Let me use our invisible characters here so you can see that it does a hanging indent which stops here because that's where there was a return. So notice if I type the number 2 here and hit a space bar, it'll line up the same way. And here's interesting, if you continue here from this point, if I hit the return, notice where my cursor is right now, if I hit return, it assumes that I'm going to do a point number 3. And when I hit return, it assumes I'm going to do a point number 4. And let me keep typing my silly typing here so that you can see that it does a hanging indent. Now I'm going to turn off the invisible characters here. Isn't that a lot easier to read than these two up here? So this is called hanging indent. I don't necessarily like where Microsoft Word put those, so watch what happens if I drag the margin buttons. So this is my first line indent. This is the left indent, and this is the left indent, and this is to say that you want a hanging indent. So I'm just going to notice they travel together if I grab the bottom one. So I'm going to put those back over at the left-hand margin. But again, when I click on that rectangle, they travel together, so I could put them where I want. This indent doesn't travel together, so that would be kind of silly looking. So I'm going to do a Control Z, and I'm simply going to put them back over here at the left margin. But Microsoft Word doesn't like it unless you have a hanging indent. If you don't want a hanging indent, here's what I would do. Notice where my cursor is right now. When I hit return and it gave me the number 5, if I didn't want this to have a hanging indent, well, let me do it to number 4 since I've already typed there, then I would just take this and drag it. I'm on the margin, I'm on the ruler here, the hanging indent, and drag it over. So notice that then I no longer have a hanging indent. But I'm a big fan. Make sure that if you have a numbered list that you're using a hanging indent.